Hi, I'm Terry Kolath. I am here with Professor Adrian Kehr talking about his first class in the summer session of the Academy of Lifelong Learning. Thank you for joining me, Professor Kehr.
It's a pleasure to be here at Shell Point again.
We have been waiting for this because we saw a little sneak peek at one of your last classes last semester. 3 weeks in Egypt.
Yes, I go to Egypt for 2 or 3 weeks every Christmas, New Year, and I go primarily to see what's new in the ancient artifacts and tombs and palace arena, but also just to see how the country's doing as it's moved from one dictator to chaos with the Muslim Brotherhood to another military dictator, and see how the people feel about those transitions. And it's very interesting what they say. And then, of course, my main focus is to see how the researchers are doing that we sponsor. There's about 8 postdoctoral students in Luxor who spend 6 months of the year doing a bit of excavation, cleaning up tombs, making accessibility better for tourists, and also trying to record any writing that they see that they've exposed.
And I feel really good about the fact that Shell Point helps you to support them.
They do.
We love the books that you've written, the books about Egypt that you sell. Profits go to help these students maintain.
That's right. The University of Chicago, which they're under the auspices of, because you have to have a sponsorship to be able to do research in Egypt. So there's a university sponsored them, but of course they're postdoctoral fellows, and so they do not get funding from the college anymore. They pay their own transit to and from Luxor, and then volunteers like ourselves help them with their cost of living while they're there.
And while you were there, I was a little worried this last time. It seemed like a very dangerous place to go, and I was right, wasn't I? Not very many people were going.
Well, yes, certainly the Western countries, particularly the United States and Russia, of course, is the other one who's actually, Russia's stopped all tourists into Egypt, and the United States State Department have advised against going because in the eastern part of Egypt, the Sinai Peninsula, there is a constant battle between the military and the police and the fundamentalist extremists who want to turn over the government. So places in the Sinai are certainly somewhat dangerous, but if you stick to the main cities like Cairo, as I did, Luxor and Aswan, and up to Abu Simbel on the Sudanese border, it's really trouble-free as long as you're careful.
But it gave you some great opportunities that most people won't usually have.
Yes, tourism is down to less than half what it was in the Mubarak period, which is devastating for their economy. So that you find when you go out to get a taxi or you're going to visit a location, then you're swamped with Egyptians who do not have the trade that they used to. People who had to take you across the Nile in a boat, there's dozens of them trying to get your business. And it's rather sad because you can see this in the way in which the Nile restaurants, which were many along the banks of the Nile in Luxor, there's a thing to do if you're a tourist, go and have dinner on the Nile boat. They've all shut down and been towed away and derelict. And some of the Nile restaurants on the land side have also been shut down, and they're blacked out. So the country is devastated by this drop in tourism.
And it's kind of interesting to me that because you're so knowledgeable about what you're doing there and you're so aware, you knew exactly what to ask for. You knew exactly what to ask to go and see.
Well, I've been going to Egypt since I was 4 years old, so I pretty well know where to go and what are the new things to see. And every year or two, something completely new is discovered, and it's fascinating to go and see areas in Luxor, which I've been walking back and forward over for 20 years. Suddenly, they find massive 20-foot statues buried underground, and it's good to see the excavation now extending beyond the normal tourist areas. So every year, they're doing more and more, and I was lucky enough to be in the Valley of the Kings in the West Valley, which is very, very rarely visited by tourists. There's a new tomb being excavated as I was there, and I was lucky enough to get a first-hand look at the tomb, which is only announced a couple of weeks ago that they've actually suspect it may be a member of Tutankhamun's family, but early days. And of course, the thing one has to wonder about is that they publish every 2 to 3 weeks, a new find, a new tomb, a new artifact. And you should bear in mind that this is part of the promotional strategy that the Egyptian government have to try and encourage people to come and see new stuff.
New stuff.
And the thing on the doorstep in 2019 is the Grand Egyptian Museum, as it's called, which is in the shadow of the pyramids. And that is 80% constructed now, and they've started to move artifacts in. Great statues which have been tucked away in storage for decades are now appearing in the light. And I saw one being moved into the museum in December, and it's a 25-foot high statue of Ramesses II that's been kept in a warehouse for 25 years.
Oh my God.
So now there's an opportunity to show all these great artifacts which are nowhere to be stored, because the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square is crowded beyond belief. There's no more room. So it's interesting to be able to see new things from 2019 onwards. I'm sure they're going to make a big play on that.
Is some of this part of the film you're going to be showing us?
Yes. Part of this is going to be in the form of a video, because this time I decided to take videos, because then you can get a better idea of the location and the Egyptian people and the lack of tourists. So you're going to see a lot of tombs and pyramids and palaces which are empty of people, which in some cases, I mean, Tutankhamun's tomb, probably the most visited tomb in the whole of Egypt. I was in there for 45 minutes on my own. There wasn't a soul in sight. And I said, okay, I came out, there's still nobody. And by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the Valley of the Kings is empty. And it's really astonishing to me, after all these years of going back and forward, I've never seen Egypt so empty. So now's the time to go. And that was the message from the Egyptian people. So please tell your friends in America to come to Egypt. And of course, the dollar is twice the value it was 2 years ago. So it really is an exceptionally good time to go.
Well, it's an exceptionally good time to go to Egypt, but it's even a more exceptionally good time to come to this Academy presentation on Tuesday, May 15th, where you can look at 3 weeks in Egypt by video from our own Professor Adrienne Kerr.